to the show here, and
hitting the home stretch, as you say.
Absolutely. So we're here with
well.
Shawn Dalton, and Shawn, great to have you back on the show as always.
Thanks for having me here.
Now, what are we talking today?
We're talking about In Pursuit of the Canadian Dream.
Okay.
I don't know what that is.
It's economic.
Is
Okay.
it?
Yeah.
It's not like that Nickelback video?
It could be.
Okay.
It could
be the Canadian
Nickelback's a
band,
great
too.
example of a successful Canadian band who have sold tens of millions of CDs here and in the States.
Have they actually been on Cribs yet? Chad, my hero, Chad Kroger.
What's Cribs?
It's a show about stars.
I talked to a lot of Canadians that don't like homegrown talent. I'm going to get to that
I know.
in a minute.
We got a problem with our culture. We
do.
don't. We
It's-
don't.
We hate ourselves. There's a
That's right. We
self-hatred.
do. I was just talking to somebody about that yesterday. Okay, Shawn, go.
Sad.
Okay, Small Business Week celebrates Canadian entrepreneurial achievements. This was an article published by the Epoch Times in the business section on A9 between October 18th and 24th of this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it says, a key problem to address is Canada's lagging productivity due to too little investment in business productivity, such as new electronics and machine skills training and development of new products and processes, the bank stated in the fact sheet. That's the Business Development Bank of Canada. It noted that Canada ranks last among G7 countries in investment in advanced machinery and equipment, and investment in information and communications technology, or ICT, is especially inadequate. ICT, or information communications technology, accounts for 2.5% of GDP in Canada compared to 3.9% in the US. And from 2008 to 2011, labor productivity growth was negative 0.29% in Canada compared with plus 2.2% in the United States. So if we had the same productivity as the Americans, each Canadian would have an average of extra $210,000.
People have been talking about lagging Canadian productivity for at least the entire time that I've been
Okay, but
aware
does
of
the
this.
fact that we're so nice negate some of that?
Yeah. Well, 2011,
We're not that nice.
2011 census, only
Yeah.
5.8 million people chose the I'm a Canadian box. And that was actually an increase
Wait, what
from
percent?
5.8 million chose for their identity under the census.
Which
so,
is 1/6, right? Because we're about 30.
yeah, like almost, it's less than 2 out of 10 people consider themselves Canadian. So we have a hypertronic, hyphenated identity. It divides us into
Wow.
tribes. We're less likely to come together as people to create the opportunities of tomorrow because we're all on different pages. We all speak different languages. Everyone's got different belief systems. There's nothing to melt into like in the States where they have the American dream and
Well,
the
I
American
noticed
identity.
that in this article there's a big Tim Hortons mug there, and I
Absolutely.
know everybody drinks Tim Hortons.
Not me.
This article is from the Epoch Times by Yu Pang. It's called Canadians Trust Homegrown Companies Less Than Global Giants, survey finds.
Wow.
That's a problem with our culture. We've always been like that.
Canadians may feel sentimental about homegrown brands, but they trust and respect them less than the global giants, a survey has found.
Yeah.
Only 6 of the top 60 multinational brands as chosen by Canadians are Canadian, and the highest rated Canadian company on the list, Quebec pharmacy chain Jean Coutu Group, only managed to reach 29th place. Quote, in general, Canadian companies received lower scores than last year, noted the report by international research and communications firms Reputation Institute. Janet Hanna, Vice President of Trajectory Reputation Institute's Canadian partner, said these results reinforce the idea that it takes more than being a homegrown to earn support and respect. Quote, Canadian brands have to compete in an international marketplace, even in their own backyard, she said. So,
Okay, fair enough.
there are
It
examples
is
of
tough. It is.
It is,
I
but
think
we're not.
there's truth.
You know, everyone's in their own little tribe. Instead of coming together for unified solidarity.
Is that the real problem, though?
It is.
I mean,
because
huge
there
problem.
doesn't seem to be an issue in Quebec. They seem to be so
Absolutely.
solidarity.
That's because Quebec has a policy of interculturalism, which means if you have a signage, even Chinese restaurants had to do this, they had to publish their information in French so that, you know, they can still sell Chinese food, but it has to be in French. So they share a common, you can understand what they're trying to sell.
Well,
you can read it.
also
it's not
having-
in Mandarin. It's not in Cantonese.
And you know what? They support their artists. There's
They
a
do,
big whole
absolutely.
star system that they have there.
They voted for the NDP. 59 of the 102 seats for the NDP came from Quebec. They vote as a bloc. They vote as a people, as a nation. You know,
So maybe the rest of Canada, in terms of what you're saying, the solidarity thing, could learn.
we're catching
Well,
up, though. Like, we voted
are
for
we?
Harper as a nation. He only won 5 seats in Quebec, right? So that's the first time in 30 years that Quebec was a non-factor in the election. Every prime
Wow.
minister in the last 30 years came from Quebec.
Isn't that
Trudeau,
interesting?
Stéphane Dion was from Quebec. Thomas Mulcair, he was environment minister of Quebec Liberals. He's running the NDP. Brian Mulroney was from Quebec. Jean Chrétien was from Quebec.
Oh my God.
They're all from Quebec, and they all just put Quebec first. And that's why Quebec's been getting more transfer payments than any other province. That's why they're a welfare province. Because when they pass the signage laws,
It's a welfare province.
it means they get more transfer payments than they get more than they pay into the pot. You know how there's the
Okay, well, that's not fair.
well, that's Canada for you. We're a very tribal country, I guess. This company might have.
I
heard
know you're
called
looking at the glass being half full.
Canada Goose. You guys.
I mean,
heard of
half empty.
You guys heard of
I
the
was
Canada Goose company?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We all know that.
This was written in Toronto Business Times, September 2012 to 13. Toronto is downtown for Danny Rees, Canada Goose president, CEO firm to 3,000% growth. That's the name of the article.
Yeah.
It says more than
Wow.
50 years ago, Sam Tick started a small garment factory in Toronto called Metro Sportswear. Since 1957, the company has evolved from a small entrepreneurial endeavor to an internationally recognized brand worth over $100 million. Now known as Canada Goose, the company is currently run by Danny Rees, president and CEO of grandson of Sam Tick. By keeping manufacturing in Canada, focusing on a strong business culture, and taking a new approach to marketing, Canada Goose has grown by more than 3,000%, is an inspiration to entrepreneurs in Toronto. He said, "We are worth over 100 million now. We have
Wow.
grown well over 3,000% in the past 10 years. Internationally, we have grown to the point where people just want more of everything." He said, I couldn't believe that people didn't care about made in Canada, and for us, it was fundamental for our brand. After all, Canada Goose is quintessentially iconic Canadian product. Just like if you made a Swiss watch in China, you can't do that either. We decided that we had to stay in Canada. By making that decision, we have now become the leader of the, quote, Made in Canada movement, certainly in the apparel industry, and the poster child for Made in Canada. So Made in Canada was big for us. That's number one. Being in Toronto made it easier to expand our business internationally. Now 2/3 of our business is not done in Canada. 1/3 is in Europe, and a lot in Asia and in the United States. I think that Canada's and Toronto's diversity definitely helped make us grow.
That's an inspiring story for, especially for anybody in manufacturing in Canada that wants to keep it Canadian.
Absolutely.
Which is what we need to do.
We have business improvement areas in parts of the city. We have like
Yeah.
BIAs. There should be like a Made in Canada business improvement.
There should be, you know.
Something.
I found another example of a Made in Canada clothing company.
Okay.
You guys ever heard of Antonio Volante? Familiar with him?
Tony Valenti?
Yeah.
I think so.
What's the company?
Antonio Volante. This was written in the
Never
Toronto
heard.
Star Business B3 section on Tuesday, October 9, 2012.
Okay.
The title of this article is called The True North, Strong, Free, and Stylish.
Wow.
Antonio Volante wants to be a man of the people. The designer is continuing to build his namesake Canadian clothing company while many in the business pack up operations and move abroad. The company's shirts and trousers are imbued with his ethics, manufactured in Toronto with his staff paid hourly instead of by volume. The clothier's decision to use a fair payment structure and manufacture locally increased his costs, which is to be expected. His clothing is sold in 100, mostly boutique stores throughout North America. Larger retails often import finished products such as shirts, trousers, and suits duty-free, while Volante has to pay 10 to 20% tariff on the raw materials he imports to produce his Canadian-made products. Quote, "It increases the price of our shirt, which in turn we have to pass on to our customer," he says. While other costs are directly related to quality, the tariffs add to price tags without increasing value, making his clothing more expensive to make and ultimately cutting into profits by nearly 20% per shirt. Volante only charges between $175 and $295 for his products, the same price range as Hugo Boss or Canali. But the profit margin is dramatically different from companies that outsource their labor. Born to Italian immigrants and infatuated with menswear from a young age, which a lot of Italian people are, and passed on other things, Volante opened his first plant in 2002 and launched the Antonio Volante brand in 2009. As more companies were closing down their manufacturing facilities in Canada, it became increasingly clear to me that we were closing them for the wrong reasons, says Volante, who pays workers $13 to $18 an hour on top of standard health and other benefits, including profit sharing, by the way. Other companies
Wow.
don't have those costs, he said, adding that many overseas textile workers only make $1 or $2 an hour, which is why they have to work 20 hours a day in China and Hong
Yeah.
Kong and Pakistan and Bangladesh. Volante's factory has 50 clothing makers, about half of which are from Vietnam, while the rest hail from Italy, Greece, and other countries. The designer prides himself on employing many non-English speaking immigrants who have trouble finding work in other industries due to language barriers. Also, we don't recognize foreign credentials, so people come here as doctors, they end up driving cabs. There's 200 right now in Toronto who are doing this.
Okay, but Shawn, okay, let's talk about this. So these are some good examples about where you're talking about the pursuit of the Canadian dream. Like, what's your main thesis here?
My thesis is, you don't have to go overseas to find it. You don't have to make it somewhere else. You can make it right here, and you can add value added. You can make it high quality, and you can charge a high price. And if you have good marketing, you get the message out to the public, you can make a lot of money.
Sure, but I think it would be a great idea if it's fine for one company to do that, but it's also easier said in a way than done when you're encountering like the high cost of doing business in Canada, the high cost of labor relatively.
This is clearly a question of not just the bottom line, right? This is a question of ethics and values.
Well,
so that's the pursuit of the Canadian dream.
If you're in business, it's a question of survival.
Well, maybe we should change. Maybe we should change our idea of what business is.
Well, you have to change more than your idea about businesses. You have to change the rules and the.
It caters to the entrepreneurial niche,
Spirit,
and that's where the fastest job growth is. So when we succeed in the future and become very wealthy, you're going to be dragged along with it, right? So you'll have been there the whole time. Meanwhile, Bell and Rogers, they're so out of touch with reality. Like, they're so, okay, well, whatever's hot and whatever's good. You guys are focusing on the small markets, which could be tomorrow's leaders.
Sure, but I understand why entrepreneurship is growing, largely because the big companies are downsizing, as those dinosaurs are slowly dying, and yet sometimes I think that the entrepreneurs, the small businesses, are not getting the support that they really need. I think it would be a great thing if the governments, the federal government and provincial governments, started to support Canadian manufacturing. But when you get into official policy, even of the Conservative government currently, it's like, no, globalization, decrease tariffs, don't protect the domestic market, let the jobs go overseas. Doesn't matter what government is in power. When push comes to shove, that's what it's all about.
We have to organize it. You know what? We can too. We're the #1 connected people to the internet, 68% according to Comscore. We can mobilize and reverse this trend easily. It'll take a while, but it's possible.
But how are we going to do it, Shawn? Specifically, realistically, what is it going to be? I do think we have a cultural problem. I still think that although we talk about Canadians don't respect themselves enough or prefer to do business with foreign companies, it's a cultural mindset problem that I think's been here since day one in this country.
Well, every time I've got a section in my book on honor killings, and I believe that multiculturalism encourages people to live life outside the mainstream and contrary to our values, and you end up with these kinds of things. So,
but I'm not sure that there are these. I'm not sure that I understand the issue of multiculturalism problems when people don't feel integrated and get into little specific cultural and linguistic silos.
It's a distraction, Hugh.
But
like, you come to this country, you're no longer an Italian, a German, a Chinese.
I hear you.
You have a language,
Shawn,
and a way of life.
I hear you. I'm just saying I'm not sure that is the cause of this cultural problem that we have as a country. I think it would be great if we're able to really step into our Canadianness and be proud of it and be working towards doing more of it, and that would encourage the newcomers to participate more. I think that'd be a great thing. I'm just not sure how we're going to do that.
It needs to start in the school system. They need to teach Canadian history, the good and the bad. They need to give people cultural capital. They need to tell people how this country operates and what it takes to be successful here. There has to be some effort on the government also to provide that view.
And maybe there needs to be, everybody's bringing in their different cultures, and that seems to stay with them when they come here, but largely that's because we don't have a culture. Maybe we need to start
to... We don't encourage our own narrative.
I don't know what our culture is other than hockey.
All right, it's basketball, it's baseball, it's
okay, that's news to me, and I was born here.
Canoeing?
It's canoeing. It's the rock music. It's our publishing industry. It's the best-selling authors, the poets, the writers. It's our democracy.
There is no stereo. Well, there's a stereotype of being Canadian, but you know what? When you think of England,
illegal. You can't kill your family if they're dating a boy.
No, but when you think of somebody from England, there's a certain sense of a sensibility. When you think of somebody who's American, there's a sensibility. When you think of somebody who's French, there's a sensibility. In Mexico, same thing.
Definitely know who Quebecers are because they're noisy quackers.
Quebec, yes, but in Canada, no. Just quiet, passive.
I think that's changing. I think we're sick and tired of it, and we're moving in another direction.
Or is it that you're sick and tired of it?
Yeah, I am actually. I am sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of being a hotel and a doormat, and I want my identity to be. I want to see my identity expressed in other people's ambitions, and I want to share my values with other people, and I want to see those reflected back towards me. I don't
Are you
wanna-
finding that hard to do?
No, I see changes, but we've definitely erected lots of barriers. When we promote other people's cultures, we neglect our own. And you can't respect yourself unless you can't respect other people unless you respect yourself first. We have to put Canada first and say, you're coming to this country. Welcome, as you said before in other debates. We'll embrace you. Buy into our narrative. Become a part of the next chapter. It doesn't have to look like the last one.
But if you're telling me that in the last census, only 5.8 or 5.9 million people called them Canadian first,
Right.
Are we really changing? You're saying
that's
think
up
it's
from about 500,000 to 1 million. That's a massive
Oh,
increase.
really?
It's
That's
a huge increase.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And there was a
Wow.
60 to 90% plunge in almost every other identifiable ethnicity. So people are
Okay,
feeling more
okay,
Canadian now.
okay,
That's
okay.
a trend. So
Okay.
maybe because Canada Goose is so popular and everyone's so worried about the Research in Motion company going under, people feel anxiety about these things because they feel a cultural connection to these companies.
Boy, all of a sudden they're going to get inundated with resumes because I bet you their turnover rate is really low.
Okay, now, Shawn, we don't have a lot of time left. You've made some great points here,
Yes,
but
you did. You have.
is there anything else you want to say that's just going to, get your message across today about pursuing the Canadian dream? I agree with you. Let's pursue it. How do we do that?
Well, you find out what you're good at, and then you focus on that, specifically, and you tune out everything else, and you just go after it. That's all you have to do. Just
Now, how's
everyone's
that
good at
different?
something.
But how is that different than in any other country? What makes that Canadian?
Well, it's more similar to the American dream, where you take your ambitions and talents and you maximize them for the profitability. You make as much money as possible, and if you make a huge pile of money, you'll probably need to employ people at some point to administer it, because as you grow, you'll need help, right? So
In Canada, we're not about making money; we're about making a difference.
we should start making money so we can have more money so we can make a difference. If you have more money, you have more time to make a difference. How about that? How does that sound? Let's.
Does that make sense, Shawn?
I'm agreeable.
If I was a billionaire, I could do a lot more than being a schmo. Obviously, I'd have a lot more time. I could invest more money into things that I believe in.
We know
into
you're a
causes.
billionaire. You're just pretending.
All right, Shawn. Well, always great to have this conversation.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for coming
Shawn.
in
God bless
today.
you. Thank you very much.
Now, if people want to get in touch with you and your stuff, your writing, your work, where do they do that?
I've got a research website called endofees.ca.
I've never seen you smile so much.
And I've done debates on your show. This will be the 7th one. 6 on immigration, 1 on the corporate sell-off of Canada, and this is 1 on the Canadian dream.
I actually think this was the most positive
Shawn
one so
Dalton
far.
on YouTube, ShawnDalton. You can see my debates that I've done with you guys on these
Okay.
topics.
Okay, Shawn. All right. Well, thanks
Shawn,
for
you're
doing this
amazing.
Thank you
today.
very much.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's it for the show, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Wow,
Great
I feel like
show,
it was
Sandra.
lightning
Okay, we got to do that.
Awesome.
Okay, we got to take off because we got to get the heck out of here.
Yeah.
We'll be back tomorrow for more Liquid Lunch right here on ThatChannel.com.
He's going paddling with the boys.